talked about the H2F. We also did a quick kind of walkthrough or overview on the ACFT, and then also answered some questions and fielded some questions about what we're going to actually see this morning with hands-on equipment. All right, so the initial is as far as the ACFT, you're taking it. It's the site location and identification of that. So the OIC, NCOIC is responsible for certifying the site location. So as you see out here, okay, set up a little bit differently than you would set up a normal ACFT of 16 lanes. So again, I think we talked this on Tuesday. A battalion set is 16 lanes. Here we have 6 lanes set up, and obviously we're kind of spread out, but we spread out purposely for this because of a round robin demo, which I'll explain more after we go through that, okay? So your 16 lane battalion set, all right? Part of the certification is when they're looking at it, what the OIC and NCOIC is looking at is the area to cover that 16, if you're going with a full 16 lane set, is a 40 by 40 meter location that you have. Grass or astroturf, okay? Has to be, as far as that's two of the qualifying things that you must have to include your pull-up bars for your leg tuck event number 5 should be next to wherever you're going to be conducting the 2-mile run with your event number 6. For your event number 6 in the 2-mile run, it can't be more than a 3% uphill grade, so that's all has to be taken into consideration. The OICs and NCOICs, again, will know your organization when they're setting it up, as far as how many lanes are going to be needed when you're conducting it. They're also going to ensure, like we did this morning with the setup of our lanes, to ensure there's no debris hazards that are out there. So we identified from yesterday, we had a group come through, the other half of your group. The field wasn't this bad, we've identified it and adjusted fire. So that's just going to be kind of a fluid thing that you're going to do as you're setting that up, okay? So again, the actual setup of the ACFT, any questions about that?
Sir, so are those events need to be done in sequence, or can you decide
No. No, so her question is, does all 6 events have to be done in sequential order? And the answer is yes, they do have to be conducted in sequential order, 1 through 6. Is that clear for everybody? Okay. The other thing is, as far as when you're setting that up and looking at, your site survey and where you're going to actually be conducting it, okay, part of it is, as well as the sleds, when we get to that, you're going to see that the sleds need to be on that grass surface or turf, okay? All right, so part of the round robin then. So what we're going to do is, the purpose is to go through, we'll talk through. I'm going to kind of talk through on a macro level and give you the opportunity to kind of ask questions as we go through each of the events. We're going to go through event 1 through 5. Obviously, we're not going to do, just for time purposes, event number 6, which is the 2-mile run. Everybody that's out here has done multiple APFTs, so we all know what the 2-mile run looks like, but we'll answer any questions as far as times and everything after we get through event number 5. Okay? So we're going to then move through each of the 5 locations or events for the demo, and then we'll kind of do a walkthrough and talk through after that. So we'll go through real time and then talk through some of the issues or something that will cause a fault once we get there. Okay? All right, so last thing that I'll put out to everybody is, as far as this, different than the APFT that where we read the instructions. So now we've identified the site, now it's about actually giving the instructions for the ACFT. The APFT, we know that the instructions are read on the morning of and before each of the 3 events. Okay? For the ACFT, it is read 48 hours prior to, but it is not, again, administered on the morning of. So the full instructions are read between that 48 hours, but not on the morning of. The soldiers then read, or those that are taking it will actually read the instructions. During that time is when they have the opportunity to ask their leadership, any concerns, questions, or anything is done at that time. There will be the instructions out at the actual ACFT location on the date of the test, but they won't be read. Are we clear on that?
Oh.
We've already identified then the instructions. The instructions have been put out to all the soldiers that are taking the ACFT. The next thing then is the soldiers report out for the day whenever you are taking the ACFT. The soldiers will come out ready to execute in APFUs, okay? And then the NCOIC of that group, there is a 10-minute warm-up. The 10-minute warm-up will be conducted by the NCOIC or that person that's designated to do it. You'll go through the 10 preparatory drills, okay? So the normal preparatory drills takes about 9 minutes. You got 10 minutes to go through the 10 preparatory drills, and that's the warm-up. After the warm-up then, the soldiers then have another 10 minutes to warm up. So the soldiers will move over to the deadlift area, event number 1, and they'll have an opportunity to figure out their weight that they're going to use and have that opportunity to warm up. Some of the questions that were kind of discussed yesterday or kicked around yesterday, if I'm going through the PRT and the warm-up, is that sufficient enough? Or, you know, obviously you'll have time before the actual event starts, the official event, to continue to warm up so you're ready to go and you feel comfortable. All right, so any questions about that? Okay, so now, sir.
Just point of clarification, for that 10 minutes of the preparatory drills, that's at the soldier's own pace. So the NCOIC isn't getting out there and running it like a PT formation. That's just 10 minutes, soldiers at their own pace.
Okay, everybody clear on that? Okay, first event. So the first event is the 3 repetition max deadlift. We're gonna kind of, if you can force you around so you can see this. This is about safety. So as we're going through and learning really all of the different events, kind of walking through it, some people identified they've never done a deadlift in their life. How do I do it? It's about proper form, okay? And it's obviously, so you're not going to jump on a squat rack and put on 315 pounds and try to knock it out for the first time ever doing a squat, right? So this is, again, it's the level of where you're at as far as fitness and where you're at as far as the exercises. But what I'll say is yesterday, you know, just kind of seeing folks immediately, the first thing with no kind of warm up or anything is as soon as we broke the groups out into smaller groups to start kind of just putting hands on equipment, seeing everybody kind of move, which is kind of the normal tendency, over to the deadlift area and try it. And the first question is what's the minimum or what's the max? And then jump behind that piece of equipment and just start going for it without any warm up, okay? Which is just that normal tendency. So again, this is about us learning the proper technique in our soldiers and making sure that we are watching that, to include our graders are kind of monitoring that as we go through. Any other questions on that? So what we're going to do is, we got Master Sergeant Horner, again, our Master Fitness Trainer Instructor, who's going to go through at a demo to show you the correct form for a 3 maximum repetition for the first set. You have an opportunity for 2 sets for record, okay? We are going to go through the first, again, real time, she's going to go in. The grader is going to be there. So the soldiers, when they're going through the actual warm-up, during the actual deadlift warm-up time, the soldiers will have their scorecard. They will fill their scorecards out at that time. Good to go. Now they're getting ready to conduct the actual event. The official event is now getting ready to start. The grader will call that first soldier up for the lanes. For the 16 lanes or the lanes that you have, it's 2 or up to a maximum of 4 soldiers per lane. Okay, is everybody clear on that? So a maximum of 4. All right, soldiers identified by the grader. We're getting ready to begin the test. The soldier will step up. Again, during that 10-minute time, you're having the opportunity to stand behind the weights that you feel comfortable with. So obviously the way the ACFT, the way it's being set up, and it's going to be dependent upon your organization and your unit. You'll know your organization, whether it's primarily the median is more heavy than a lighter unit. As far as, is it lighter weights that's going to be out there stacked? Because what you're trying to minimize is a lot of changing of weights, okay, in between the iterations in the sets. So the way we've got this set up, so this is 140 pounds. For the current hex bar right now, that once the NSN will come out, or will be out, and you're able to order it, it is 60 pounds for the hex bar. Approximately 60 pounds, okay? These hex bars that are out here, just so your awareness for these, are 70 pounds. They came from the MWR. As you go around and go back to your camp post and station, you may see different in the gyms and your facilities back there, different kind of weights for this, but the standard is 60. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Everybody clear on that? Everybody's warmed up. We're getting ready to start the official ACFT. The soldier steps in, hands off the card to the grader. The grader then gives the instructions, get set. And go. Okay.
Sergeant Major, what's the allowable pause, if any, between the reps?
Okay, constant movement. There's going to be, when we walk through, okay, it'll be identified in the instructions as well, but as we go through, it's continuous movement, so you're not pausing on the ground, okay? As you're going through this, as well as shifting or moving of hands.
Go ahead and start up. Go ahead and start up, and then now fix it. That's good.
Okay, so some of the things, stepping in, feet shoulder width apart. You've seen her okay, walk through, Sergeant Horner, some of the things that would fault or cause you to be stopped by the grader. So here's the thing, she performed 3 correct repetitions, right? That's her first set. This is 140 pounds. That's the minimum for the gold standard. So the 3 bands, gold, gray, and black. The minimum for 60 points to 100 points right now. We know for the fielding test, a lot of questions have come out in reference to, the scale, where we are as far as the bands. Is that going to move and shift? Again, this is a field test, so it's a year. It started from 1 October to 30 September. Our pilot locations, like Dr. East talked about, are in 62 locations across all 3 compos. And so again, as we go through this field test, that's the purpose of it, is to kind of make adjustments to it as needed. But as of right now, for the scale, she just completed the 140 pound, 3 repetition max deadlift, 2 standard, okay? She's a go. She has the opportunity then to perform a second set. So for the first event, you have the opportunity to perform a second set. Now, her decision is does she want to go up to the next, whatever weight she wants to decide, and it's going to be up to the soldier to make that determination, or does she want to stop there? If she stops there, she moves out to the next event, event number 2. If stopped by the grader for improper technique or for safety issues, okay, that may cause injury that the grader is watching for, if stopped, the soldier then has the opportunity to go and take that second, to do that second set for record. So again, conversely, the soldier starts at 300, comes out, Sergeant Horner's feeling pretty good. She comes out, she wants to start at 300 today, and she's just not feeling 300 for the 3 rep max deadlift. So as she's getting it off the ground, she can't get it. Her technique is off. Sergeant Horner, show us some issues as far as what would cause a grader to stop you from improper technique. Can you guys see over here?
Just talk.
Okay, so rounding at the shoulders, rounding at the back. Also, if your hips rise before your shoulders. So ideally you want to stand up as that single unit. So if there's anything that could potentially cause injury to the soldier, then it is up to the grader to go ahead, stop that movement. It will not count against the soldier as an attempt. So that will not be one of those attempts. And the grader will recommend that they go down to that lighter weight so that they can perform to standard safely, those 3 repetitions.
Okay, so any questions about that? So event number 1, the 3 repetition max deadlift. Last thing I'll just say about this is, so she's going through, she makes the decision to go up to the next lift. She gets a good lift there for 3, the highest score counts. Conversely, like I said, goes up to 340 pounds, which is the max right now for 100 points. for whatever reason, a bad day, can't make the 340, is stopped by the grader, or she just stops on her own, she has the opportunity for her second set to go down to whatever weight to get the set to count for record. Are we clear on that? Cool.
If she starts at 140 and is successful and moves up and is not successful, does she have to then go back and complete another repetition?
No.
She's still good at 140.
Correct. So
Got
the
it.
question, everybody hear that? Good to go? So again, she tries it, she's got her record in, and then going to the next one, can't complete it, that first counts for record.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions about this? So what will happen is after we've completed this, we'll get ready to then, the soldiers will move through in a 4-soldier stack. After that soldier's completed, they're going to move over to event number 2, the power ball throw.
Question.
If you do a successful set on one weight, move up, do a successful set on the next weight, that's 2 chances for record. Do you still have opportunity to move up and do another set for heavier weight?
No. So you have 2 opportunities, 2 sets.
So you really need to know what
Absolutely.
your zone is before you come in.
So you have the opportunities to train up prior to, obviously the ACFT, and then during your warm-up on that day to see how you feel. You've got that 10 minutes to kind of work that out and feel comfortable wherever you're at.
So if I ask everyone what their 2-mile run time is, you'd be within 10 seconds probably. It'll be the same way with this. And what we've found so far is most of the people who've taken it for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th time, they don't go up anyway because they know what's coming. So they're like saving.
Okay, any other questions?
So Major, what's the minimum weight for each of the 3 bands?
Was that?
140, 160, 180. So 140 is for gold, 160 for gray, and then 180 is the minimum for the black standard.
But just remember, those are IOC weights. Those will not be the FOC weights.
Okay, for here, the soldier has one, will execute at full speed, but the soldier has one opportunity for a test throw. That test throw obviously doesn't count. It also gives for the grader out here that's marking the actual, it's in meters, marking the actual location of where the ball actually hits.
So one of the things, this is a nuance, right? So we've got a grader in each lane, but we need someone to mark the record score and we need someone to record. So what we've hit upon is grader lane 1, grader lane 2, we decide who's going to go grade. So he's going to go out and mark, I'm going to step up and I'm going to run the lanes, right? So I'm running lane 1 and lane 2 right now.
Okay, so go ahead and the grader's going to identify. What the grader's looking for at this time is that the soldier conducting will pick up the medicine ball, 10-pound medicine ball. They'll be standing in front of the line. Their feet can't touch the line or go past the line. They're going to execute as far as the power ball throw. We'll do it live first so you can see, and then we'll talk through some of the issues. Okay. You see the divot in the grass where it marks. Now I know after that first throw, which is a practice throw, I basically know the range of where that soldier is going to be throwing, so it gives me as a grader out in the field the ability to kind of mark it. The grader then will mark in the center of where the ball or the divot is, where it makes contact with the ground. Place the either PVC pipe or a wooden stick that's used, so that's part of the actual what you'll need for the execution of the event. And then we'll set it down perpendicular to the actual marking of the tape. First record throw, again, did not,
9.7.
I'm writing it down.
feet did not go across or did not touch the line. Well, everybody's seeing.
She stepped over.
So he stepped the line. So the grader's up here. Part of the grader's responsibility is obviously the execution back and forth of having them fluidly move through the lanes, but also watching the feet here. If the soldier then during the 2 attempts goes back and touches the line, and it's called default, they have an opportunity to conduct that same repetition again.
Let's go through one time. So he's through, right? Ball goes down, he goes out, his battle buddy comes back, next soldier comes up, and we're good to go again. So we just keep rotating through. So the rest interval for these people is how long it takes the four-person stack to go through. It takes about 6 minutes for the whole stack.
All right, any questions about that? You should have towels out there. The soldiers have the opportunity to use the towels to wipe off the balls after each iteration, okay? Obviously recommended. They can obviously use it to wipe down the bars and everything else. Question was, went over here before, as far as can I use gloves? You can use gloves, but it's got to be conforming to AR 670-1. So yes, you can use gloves, okay? But again, it has to conform to 670-1.
Sorry, Major. Question was, what's the minimum and maximum distance for the throw?
We have it marked over here, so, well, it's marked here too, but it's a little harder to see because we've got other cones. So when you get over here, we have the gold, gray, and black marked on the lane when you go to practice. It's 5-ish, 6, 7-ish, 8-ish in the so it's IOC, so so, and we mark the max over there currently. So you'll see 4 cones when you go over the practice with the throw.
Hand release push-up, okay? Soldier at event number 3 has 2 minutes to complete as many correct repetitions. The soldier then will get down and get set. Okay? Instruction, ready, get set, go, the clock will start. Soldier's hands come completely off the ground. The index fingers, so the index fingers, not the hands, on the inside of the shoulder. The only rest position for this event, unlike the push-up under the current APFT, is the front leaner rest position. Okay? No arching of the back, no sagging in the middle. Only authorized rest position is the front leaner rest. Termination. 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 So again, the body moving up and down.
She's moving.
Right now, so the T push-up
Arm extension.
or arm extension is the second alternate. That's part of the pilot location right now that's being looked at throughout this year. So both are being tested, whether it's the hand release. What are your questions? 2 minutes to do as many correct perform.
Determination for a SAG. And they lose their plane.
So basically, we're working through this right now, but right now we got a lot of muscle memory to overcome, and so we're going to be getting warnings now, and probably after a warning, it's certainly the repetition doesn't count, so that's a penalty, but termination is one of the potential outcomes. So one of the things she did was she started doing the creepy crawler hands, you know. So what the grader's got to determine is whether the soldier's making continuous effort. What we've seen so far is people are like, they're thinking old push-up. So they're like, you know, like this. After about 30 seconds, it slows down a lot, right? About half of the soldiers that have tested have not completed continuous movement for 2 minutes. You know, they index about, you know, minute 30, minute 15. So how fast you move your hands is relatively irrelevant to the total number of push-ups you do, because you reach volitional fatigue before the 2 minutes are up. So that is a bit of a decision that's going to have to be made, whether or not they're making continuous effort with their hands.
Sure. So during this event, what's a no rep look like? So what would cause you not to get a rep?
Okay.
Okay, not, again, just what you're saying, just like our current, push-up standard right now, the hands are coming off the ground, not making contact with the ground. By not raising their hands off the ground, hand release, during the hand release, which is different than obviously the current test that we have right now. We talked about sagging for the rest position, then as far as sagging.
That's number one. What you just saw is the number one no-go rep.
The hands have to come back
That's number
inside
two.
the shoulders every time?
Yes.
Or can it go wider? Or?
Correct. It's got to come back to that same starting location that you started back with. Now the grader, while the grader's going through, obviously is making corrections, just like you are, except, as opposed to stopping them at 10, you're going to go ahead and just terminate them at some point if they're not making the correction or self-correcting for that. Okay, for feet width. So feet width, unlike the current APFT, no more than 12 inches apart, it's one boot length apart. So either boot width, a boot width, it's either feet together or no more than a boot width apart. All right, any questions about that? Okay, we're going to move on to the next event. The next event is the sprint, drag, and carry. 25 meters down and 25 meters back. So it's a full sprint. Part of the grader's responsibility as he's setting up is to ensure that the lane's ready to go and it's safe for that individual to make sure that as the actual person taking the ACFT is coming back and tripping over the kettlebells, which are going to be out here and use part of this event. They're not tripping over the sled. They're kind of making sure that the area is clear for all that. Okay, on the command to get set, shoulder starts in the front lane of rest position on the ground. On the prone, get ready, set, go. Shoulders sprinting down 25 meters, touches with both hand and foot.
Yeah. 25 meters is the blue cone for when you're doing this.
Just for time,
All right.
and since he's done this 9 times already this morning, we're going to stop him a little bit.
Okay.
So that's
then the drag.
right
the
there.
drag, 90 pounds. When you set your sled up, it's a 90 pound plus or minus for the sled about 7 pounds. So it's about 96, 97 pounds for the sled. Down 25 meters and back. The side lateral is the next iteration, going down. As the shoulder goes down, all the way touches with hand and foot, comes back.
Yes.
Shoulder then comes back, picks up the kettlebells, 40-pound kettlebells. 25 meters down, 25 meters back.
So, question back here was if he doesn't touch with his hand, does he have to go back, or does that count? So if you don't have anything in your hands, so if you're not dragging or not carrying kettlebells, at the turnaround you have to touch with a hand and a foot. So if this is my line, I fail to cross it and go back, the grader's going to call me back to touch across the line. If I don't touch with a hand, the grader will call me back to touch with a hand and a foot. So you don't terminate the event at any point. The penalty is just that you have to come back, which eats up time.
Do you have a grader on the far end?
You do not. So the question is, do you have a grader on the far end? You only have one grader per lane, and at this point, the only time you buddy up is for that standing power throw. So the grader during this process looks a lot like a basketball referee, where he's kind of shadowing up and down the lane, walking to make sure that they've touched on both ends.
So is everybody clear about that? So the grader's moving along. The grader also can help with the shoulder taking it to kind of walk through, because you get in the tunnel, a little bit of tunnel vision. What's my next one? What am I going to grab? Make sure when the shoulder, a couple things, just as far as the actual kettlebell, when it comes back, the shoulder, when they cross the line, must set the kettlebells down. The shoulder can't throw the kettlebell. So the tendency is to come back, have to set it down, can't throw the kettlebells and take off for the next iteration. The next thing is there's 3 proper positions for the hand for the sled. First one is demonstrated. Everybody see? Okay. Put your hands through the actual straps. Okay. Grab it like Major Flores is currently grabbing it.
What you can't do is this. Right? Because then what we found is then they do this. And now they're pulling about half of this. So it's got to hold down by the hands.
Okay, any questions about that?
So, hang on just a second.
Hang on just a second. So what can happen is I can approach the kettlebells from the front. I can pick them up. I can turn and go back, or I can go all the way through the lane, and I can be facing the direction I'm going, and I can pick them up. This is a permutation we weren't tracking until some soldiers got after it, and this is a lot quicker. And so that's approved. That's
Question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sergeant Major, so the sled has to stay in full contact the whole time? Is that part of it?
Correct. So as you're going down, so again, going through the demo, you're going backwards. You can't turn to the side or to the front, pulling it this way in this direction. As you come down, the actual sled has to cross the line itself. So it can't just be this continuous motion where you're torquing it, trying to throw it across as you get closer. So as I'm here and I try to torque it across to get it across the line, it's a continuous motion moving backwards. And again, it's those steps. Crossing back there and here. And again, the grader's moving with that actual person the whole time, ensuring that's happening. So it's not just static where they're standing here and not watching. They're moving all the way down back and forth.
How many graders total for this entire event?
One per lane.
Not me, as far as one person total.
One per lane.
Yeah, you've got one grader per lane, and then either an OIC or NCOIC running the entire event. So if you had a 16-lane set, you'd have 16 graders plus one running the whole show.
First of all, this is important in terms of climbing drills, getting up on top of things. We've also found when we put soldiers in full combat load, like 99% can't do a pull-up anyway, so if they're in trouble and need to get out of trouble, you know, they're not going to pull themselves out in full combat gear. But, and this is kind of an homage back to West Point and the IOCT and getting up on the shelf and those kind of things. But if I put you in full battle gear, I can probably get you to hook a heel with some training. If I can get you to hook a heel, I can kind of get you out of trouble. So it's a very functional, occupationally relevant type of task. Also, significant increase in core strength, which is going to really help us in terms of load carriage injuries. So really important event. So soldiers going to come up. We'll have a towel out if they need it. They can have gloves on if they want it. They're going to mount the bar. We usually have a step up on the bar. I think there's step ups over here on these bars. These bars on this little climbing pod over here are not to standard. So unfortunately, whoever put them up is going to have to switch out those bars. They're too big. So there's specifications in the doctrine in terms of the size of the bar. They're going to mount the bar with an opposing grip. And normally people put their dominant hand first, which tends to cant the body a little bit to the side, which is fine. And all she's going to do is bend her a little bit at the elbows and bring her hips up so that her knees touch some part. That's good. Come down for a second. Let's stop off. So the bottom line is some part of the thigh to some part of the elbow. I don't care if your knee touches your triceps here. I don't care if your elbow touches your quad down here. It doesn't matter. And there's some simultaneity in terms of the touch. You know, if it's touch, we're good. So, but the bottom line is both elbows touch both thighs at more or less the same time. So she's simply going to come to a full arm extension dead hang position, and she's going to execute as many repetitions as she can. We've put a clock on this for 2 minutes, but the bottom line is nobody goes for, well, I had one soldier go for 2 minutes, but nobody goes for 2 minutes. So we're seeing repetitions somewhere between 4, 5, 6, up to the record so far is 42. So these are all no-goes. Rep doesn't count. We don't. There's no termination here. We're currently not allowing people to turn full prone. We want you turned in a parallel to the bar there, and basically, as long as she's hanging on the bar, she's good to go. What we find is once people go to a dead hang for a second or two, that's pretty much it. It's the quickest event we have. We'll test 68 soldiers in probably 5 minutes, so it goes really fast.
So the rep ends the count at the dead hang position. So you'll notice our order's coming to a dead hang position. So she's on her final one. She's smoked and does not come all the way down. That rep doesn't count because she did not get to a full dead hang at the bottom. So make sure that you don't lose that rep at the end.
Yeah,
Can you talk for the taller folks, their feet touching?
Yeah,
How
so
do they keep from doing that?
So for taller folks, where your feet might touch the ground while you're grabbing the bar. So you are not allowed to rest at the bottom of that hang if you can touch. Incidental contact, you come down and you tap, that's fine. We're not worried about it. But you cannot use the ground to rest. You can pull your legs up to 90 degrees to do the event. Don't cross your ankles with pure safety reasons, same reason you wouldn't PLF with your ankles crossed. If you fall off the bar with your ankles crossed, that's a bad day. The grader is allowed to help the soldier in terms of stability. So you're probably going to swing on this a little bit. Grader's allowed to put a hand or an arm there to kind of slow your swing down, as long as he's not physically helping him up on the rep.
So last thing, this is a controlled movement. What we're really working on is almost like a piston type movement up and down. We want to eliminate swinging, so we don't allow kipping. We don't allow bending and flexing to get our legs up. It's just that repetition doesn't count. Question?
So the only thing that terminates it is coming off the bar?
Correct.
And again, if you're 6'3" and your feet incidentally graze the ground, yeah.
Okay, well, any other questions? Okay, so that's going to end your event 5. Then you'll move out. You'll have 5 minutes in between event 5 and event 6 to get ready for the run. So again, like we talked about, the pull-up bar should be close to wherever your track is going to be or wherever your 2-mile run is going to be. From that point, 5 minutes, get ready to run the 2 miles. Okay, we're going to go ahead and break out into groups right now to give you a chance to put. Go ahead.
Hey, real quick, Sergeant Major. Have we tested or have you seen any challenges with inclement weather? Because we're talking about wiping down bars and balls and stuff like that. If it's raining outside, is there any change?
So the bottom line is we've blown right through crawl and walk, and we've gone to run. So this entire year is supposed to be the field test year where we get to all of those issues. And we're testing 63 battalions across all compos, CONUS and OCONUS. So we will, I hate to put it off, but we'll have an answer to that.
One of my battalion was tasked out to pilot it. I was just curious about it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Major, I know there's an extensive time, there's a big difference in the timing of this because you got individual timers and where we're typically used to one group timer, there's a synchronization with timers that has to go on here, right, that we didn't talk about.
So, unfortunately with limited time, so the way we run this is the NCOIC is the starter of every event. So we don't start any event on the grader. In terms of, now the graders are timing some events like the sprint, drag, carry, but the NCOIC is timing all of the push-ups. So the graders only have to count the push-up. So we'll have 68 soldiers lined up in 16 lanes. They'll come forward for the standing power throw. NCOIC will say, graders ready, graders give a thumb up, go, and they'll start the throw. They'll reset, they'll come up to do the push-up. NCOIC will say, graders ready. They'll be in the prone position, and he will, just like a push-up fit, he'll start the 2 minutes on the push-up. So there is order, and we found that facilitates movement through the events in the quickest and the most efficient, effective way. So, great question. And we'll if you have that offline, we'll be glad to.
Okay, so
So somebody does the leg tuck first, and somebody does it 5 minutes later, and then how fast do you have to start the 2 mile runs?
So one of the things that we've done, and so the answer to your question is 5 minutes from the time the last person comes off, and it's just the best we could do. So last person finishes, everybody gets 5 minutes before we start the run. Truthfully, it takes you 5 minutes to get to the run site, get the pennies on, or get the cards collected. So it's kind of a wash in there, but about 5 minutes. Or not less than 5 minutes.